Hello there, and welcome to the Tank Museum's YouTube live stream. I think this is our first time ever doing a live stream on YouTube, or at least this kind of live stream. So, for anyone watching, again, first of all, hello. Number two, could you guys let me know if you can hear a tapping? Just a very quick mic check to make sure you guys can hear us properly. Properly. Tappy tappy, love that. Okay, guys. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. Welcome to our live stream. We have a moderator in the chat who's going to hopefully try and keep an eye on things. And if there's any questions which I miss, hopefully they will be able to pin them or bring them to my attention. So yes, so awesome, very excited. What tank is that? Well, this is our M103. It's an American heavy tank, 120 millimeter gun, but yeah, Cold War era tank. Just for some context, we're not actually in the main museum today. We are in the Vehicle Conservation Center, which is where most of the Tank Museum's reserve collection is. There's about 120 vehicles in this one room, which is pretty crazy. Good evening from the United States. It's 10 a.m. I think that might be good morning, but hello regardless. Yes, some really cool stuff in this building. So a lot of the sort of prototype testbed, very unusual vehicles are in this building. It's a bit of a shame that we can't get these vehicles out more into the open, but we really just don't have the space. Tanks take up a lot of space, and yeah, we don't have an infinite amount of space. So this is where most of the reserve collection lives. But yes, it is indeed 6 minutes past 3 in the UK. Isn't the tortoise in here? No. So the tortoise is in the main museum in our Cold War hall, or what we now refer to as the Tamiya Hall. It basically faces off against TOG 2. So tortoise, one of the widest vehicles in our collection, staring down one of the longest vehicles and the heaviest vehicle in our collection. From near St Andrews in Scotland, 4RTR. Brilliant. If you could fit in a Chieftain, please. Okay. I am going to get you a Chieftain. Let's go Chieftain hunting. The good thing about this building is there is a huge amount of Chieftains in it. So that should be a no problem. So we just squeeze through here. We've got a lovely Chieftain Mark II, if I remember correctly. A very rare Mark II in a Berlin Brigade camouflage. That very iconic camouflage that the British Army of the Rhine troops would have used when they were over in Germany. So there we go. Very striking camouflage. We do have a couple of other vehicles that have this camouflage. We've actually got a Fox just here in the same camouflage scheme. But if I get to the back of this thing, you'll get a little bit of a better view. So there we go. You've got that 120 millimeter L11 rifled gun. During the Cold War period, one of the best tank guns of that time. Very, very accurate. That same gun would eventually go on to serve inside Challenger 1. So yeah. We do like Chieftains here. This is actually another Chieftain right here. Let me give you guys a better view. I'm not joking when I say this building is almost like a Chieftain warehouse or a dealership. So this here is actually one of my favorite variants of the Chieftain, and there's only one that exists. In fact, I really like a bit of audience participation. Does anybody know what type of Chieftain this is that we're looking at? My last wagon was a Mark 11 01 EB32. If I had access to my computer right now, I could have a look on our system and see if that vehicle happens to be in our collection. It probably isn't, but you never know. Yeah, you guys know exactly what this is. Um, yeah, so yeah, you guys know what this is. DC, thank you so much for that donation. Anything for sale? So we don't usually sell vehicles. Every now and then, every couple of years, we do sometimes do. We have to go through a very specific process where we have to reach out to different organizations who might be interested in purchasing or receiving a vehicle. At the end of the day, as I said, we have over 300 vehicles in our collection here, and there are sometimes vehicles that don't quite fit into the tank story, so to speak. So a few years back, we did have a amphibian, nicknamed them Duck, the repurposed GMCs that are amphibious, and we ended up getting rid of one of them because it just didn't really fit into our collection. And again, we are limited on space. So yes, and sorry, to go back to what I was saying before, yes, that was a Chieftain Crazy Horse. So that Chieftain back there, very much a remote controlled vehicle. We did do a video on it earlier this year, and I mean, very much biased because I'm part of the team that helped produce it, but it's a really cool video and strongly recommend if you want to see the story of how a small team of British soldiers got together to basically make a remote controlled main battle tank. Do check it out. It's really, really, really cool. Do you have the SDRV 103? Speak of the devil. Yeah, here it is, right here. So the Stridsvagn 103, this is actually one of my favorite tanks. For those of you who don't know, it's the Swedish turretless main battle tank. Sometimes a lot of debates as to whether or not this is a main battle tank or not. Very much is designed to be a main battle tank, but not in the traditional sense. So it has not got a turret. The main gun here is mounted, as you can probably see, into the hull itself, which means if you want to aim that gun up and down, the entire tank has to shift up and down, which is done through the use of hydropneumatic suspension, which is a really, really cool thing to see on this tank when it actually does it. Essentially tilts forward, backwards, and obviously if you want to aim left and right, then the tank will rotate. So yeah, extra fuel tanks on the side here. These would actually be these would actually contain diesel. You might be thinking, why on earth would you have fuel as a means of protection? But diesel is a lot harder to ignite compared to petrol, so it did make sense, and that does actually serve as an additional form of armor against like high explosive anti-tank shaped charge based ammunition. Squad Team, thank you so much for that donation. Really, really appreciate it. And we will continue to do our best to preserve these wonderful machines. What makes the STRV 103 an MBT and not a tank destroyer? So the Swedes designed this thing to be used the same way a main battle tank would be. So whilst this would be a very capable anti-tank vehicle, it still was designed to fulfill the needs of a main battle tank role, so to support infantry also. But obviously, due to the design of this vehicle, it's so, I like to describe it as so aggressively defensive. If you see photos of these things when they were using them, obviously these never saw combat because the Swedes have been very much, they've not had anyone invading their countries over the years. So they've never had to use them, which is arguably a good thing. But it's got a big dozer blade at the bottom there that it can use to dig itself into a very deep ditch, to the point that the only thing you can see poking out and aiming is that gun there, and essentially the top half here of those, the grill there, which means you've got an extremely narrow area to target if you were on the offense and trying to attack one of these. And even then, look at how aggressively sloped that armor is. It's absolutely insane. I think, and one of the reasons the STRV 103 is one of my favorite tanks is because it takes ideas that could be considered unconventional. This was designed at a time when the Swedes thought that there was no way gun stabilization technology would get any better. So with that in mind, they essentially went, okay, let's just build the tank around the gun itself and get it to do all these different things. So it's got a crew of 3. Every member of this crew can drive this tank. You've got the commander, who also can acts as the gunner. You've got the driver, who, funnily enough, drives it. But there's also a rearward facing driver position. So the rearward facing driver and the driver sit back to back. I probably can't get a good view of where those hatches are, but I will try. It's a little bit hard to. Okay, let's have a look. You might be able to see. Oh, the hatch is open. You might actually be able to see just about inside, just there. So it's got no loader. It uses an auto-loading system. It uses a modified version of the British L7 105mm gun. So the ammunition would be loaded in the back here, and every time it fires a round, this hatch opens up, and a big hot piece of brass will come flying out. So you want to make sure you're not an infantryman standing behind this when it fires. It really, really is a cool piece of engineering. And not only that, to add on top of that, it's got a conventional diesel engine, but then it's also got a secondary engine, which is a gas turbine engine, which is just, for me, I think it's just insane in terms of an engineering point of view. It's easily one of the reasons that it's one of my favorite tanks. It's just so, so, so cool. Also, sorry, I kind of went on a bit of a rant there. I'm going to go through a few more comments. Are the canisters bulletproof? No. Do you have a BT-42? We do not, but I wish we did. Sorry, as I said, I am just going through comments because I want to try and make sure I'm not missing any, but I have probably I've probably just not read a bunch of them. Yeah, we love the Swedish tanks. Are the grills like bar armor? Yeah, exactly that. So they do, again, function as a form of protection against shape charge based ammunition. If you can imagine a shape charge based round going through here, because of how narrow it is and it gets through it, it can basically crumple either side of it and basically just destroy it before impact. So as I said, it's such an aggressively defensive design, as I like to describe it. Stuart, please. Yes, let's have a look at the Stuart. We don't have an Abrams, unfortunately. Can we see the Black Prince? You can. We'll get around to that. So this here is the M5A1 Stuart. This was the later Stuart that came out during the Second World War. We also do have an M3, which is the earlier model, although it is worth pointing out that what you're looking at right here doesn't actually belong to the Tank Museum. This vehicle is part of the Bill Bannister Armoured Vehicle Collection. A guy who basically has his own, essentially his own little fleet of armored vehicles, which he and his team basically purchase and restore. So this is a running Stuart right here. Absolutely gorgeous example of tank restoration. As you can see, it's all kitted out. It's got all of the kit on it. You've got your toolkits, you've got your stowage bins and all that. Very much looks like it's ready to go straight into a World War II battlefield. The Stuart, I think, is a very underrated tank. Obviously not designed to take on armor, but the earlier M3 Stuarts basically were at the receiving end of the first time that the US saw tank-on-tank combat during the Philippines. Immediately after the the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese launched a simultaneous attack on the Philippines island of Luzon, and you had American National Guard units who had never seen combat before. They were like shiny soldiers who were completely green, nice brand new M3 Stuart tanks, which they hadn't actually seen combat in. And those things went up. I almost did these things. Obviously, this isn't an M3, but those things went up against the Japanese Type 95 Hargo and their other medium tanks. And they were quite respectable. They were going against battle-hardened Japanese crews in what were essentially outdated tanks at that point, the Japanese Type 95 Hargo. But yeah, this is the later one. Saw a huge amount of use in terms of reconnaissance. But yeah, I think it's one of those very much underrated vehicles. So we love the Stuart. The British loved the Stuart as well. Obviously, for those of you who know, Lend-Lease was very much a thing. The US sent a lot of supplies to the British. and other allied nations during World War II, and that included tanks. So the Brits got their hands on the Stuart. They used them in the North Africa. They liked them so much they nicknamed them the Honey. So, yeah. Very, very cool. Sorry, again, I keep going on rants. I hope you don't mind. I hope it's at least somewhat interesting. I am going to go around to the Black Prince because someone did ask, and I did say I would show them. So, also, random helicopter. Not something you'd probably expect to see in a tank museum. The Black Prince is a bit tricky to get to, but you can probably see the turret just there. I will try and make my way there, though. I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. If you are enjoying this, please do double tap that screen, which presumably will give us a like, as it does support us and we do really appreciate it. So, trying to get a decent angle on this thing. I'm also trying to squeeze between tanks and I'm not that thin anymore. So there we go. That there is the Black Prince. It looks very much like the Churchill. That's because the Black Prince was produced by Vauxhall Motors, the same guy that made it. One of 6 prototypes that were built during World War II. As you can see on the front of that hull there, that is number 4. And if I remember correctly, this is the only surviving one in the world. So I'm just trying to zoom. I keep accidentally zooming in and I'm trying to zoom out. So yes, it basically is a much bigger Churchill, although it's not called a Churchill. It's got the British 17-pounder. That was one of the best guns to serve the Allies in World War II. The British knew eventually that they wanted to get that gun into a armored chassis. They tried with stuff like the Valentine Archer, which required them to mount the gun on backwards, which wasn't ideal. There you go. Boop the snoot. But yes, the 17-pounder had absolutely no problem smashing a hole straight through the face of a tiger. So yeah, very powerful. They ended up developing this, the turret for it, because again, the gun is much bigger than what was used in the other Churchills, like the Churchill Mark 7. That used the 6-pounder gun, which was also a very respectable gun, but this was considerably bigger, which meant they needed a bigger turret because the breach was huge on the 17-pounder, and a bigger turret meant a bigger tank. It still has about 152 millimeters of armor at the front there and around the mantlet. But unfortunately, they didn't bother to change the power plant. This is still using the same Bedford 350 horsepower engine, which meant this thing became incredibly slow. Does anybody know the top speed of this vehicle? And I know it's not the easiest to see because of just how many vehicles we've got here. But does anyone have an idea of how fast they think this thing can go? I'm not sure fast is an appropriate word. Showed the T-34. We don't have a T-34 in this building, I'm afraid, but we do have a couple in the main museum. If you come back next week to our TikTok live, we will be live again in the main museum, and we will be showing off the T-34 because, again, it's one of my favorite tanks. Okay, let's see what you guys think. 20 miles per hour, 12 miles an hour, 35, 15, 25, 20 kph. This is the one thing where we get miles per hour and kilometers per hour. 8 miles per hour. Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop you there. So, for those of you who said anywhere near 11 miles per hour, you guys win. This thing could only do 11 miles per hour. So if you keep in mind, if any of you have ever driven a manual vehicle, you're changing gears, and when it comes to bigger stuff like this, it's usually a bit more challenging. You're changing through all of your gears just to get a top speed of 10 miles per hour, which is not fast at all. So these were basically tested around the same time as the Centurion. Speaking of which, we do have one here somewhere. That there is, although it's a late model, they were testing the Centurion at the same time. That there in front of me, I believe, is a Mark 13, the last mark of it. But when they were testing the Centurion, I think it was also 6 they sent out into Europe before the Second World War ended, but far too late for them to see any sort of combat against other vehicles. So the Centurion was just better than the Black Prince in every single way. You look at this thing and you could easily be fooled into thinking this is a relatively modern tank. It's got sloped armor at the front, something that the Black Prince doesn't have because it's got a Beezer machine gun mount, which means it has to be flat. It's got a much better gun. This one here is using the L7 105mm gun. The ones that were tested during World War II had, again, the 17-pounder. But one of the most important differences between the Centurion and the Black Prince is its power pack. Does anyone here know what engine is powering the Centurion? If you know your tanks, you'll know how iconic of an engine it is. And you probably know exactly what I'm talking about as well. To be fair, if you don't know what engine it is, but you think iconic, important engines that power tanks, you'll probably know either way. How many of the tanks here run? So in this building, it's going to be hard to tell, and I will get back to that engine question, the answers to it in a moment. You guys might be able to see those grey pillars over there. So grey pillar there, grey pillar there. The way I describe it is that most of the vehicles that are on this side where we are can run under their own power. So I'd say that's about maybe 1/3 of the vehicles in here. It's hard to put an exact number. Quite a few of these vehicles will run under their own power, but will need some sort of maintenance or work done to them. So I'd say about 1/3 of the vehicles in here can run under their own power, and there's around 120 vehicles in this building. So going back to the engine that powers the Centurion, if you said Rolls-Royce Meteor, you're absolutely correct. The Rolls-Royce Meteor was, so a bit of a backstory. The British military during World War II, early World War II, they have tanks like the Crusader, and the cruiser tanks that are being powered by the American V12 Liberty engine, which initially was a very good engine, but as tanks got bigger, they got heavier, you want to then tweak engines to put out more power. The downside of this is the V12 Liberty engine then became a lot less reliable because it was more prone to breaking down, because it wasn't originally designed to pull such heavier vehicles as the war went on. So the British went, okay, what is the most reliable engine that is currently serving the British? And as it turned out, it was the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the Rolls-Royce Merlin, which was serving in the RAF. That was the same engine powering the Spitfire, the Hurricane, the de Havilland Mosquito, the Lancaster, and it was absolutely superb. So long story short, this is a grossly simplification of it. They asked Rolls-Royce could they make a version that could run in a tank and basically run on rubbish fuel, bad quality fuel, as opposed to high octane. So they did that, and that's how you got the Rolls-Royce Meteor. As I said, grossly simplified, but yeah, there you go. Going to go through a few more comments. Got another Centurion here. I think this is a 13. This is also a 13. So yeah, actually, you can at least get a better look at that gun now. There you go. There's something about a Centurion with a nice big spotlight at the front. Sorry, so yes, I'm just going to go through a few more comments. Came all the way from Finland for this exact hall to be closed. I'm so sorry to hear that. But at least you can see, I guess, a bit more than maybe you were able to see when you were here. We will not be praising that particular garden creature. Yes, for those asking why there are radiation signs, a lot of these vehicles have radium paint on the dials, especially in the driver's positions. Some of those dials are sealed, some of them are not, hence why there are radiation warnings. It does not mean that if we stand next to this, the camera goes all fuzzy and the air starts tasting spicy. So we're very much safe here. Do we have a T-58? We do not. King Tiger prototype? We do. We will get to that. Do you have a Challenger 1? There is one right there. There's quite a few Challengers in here, actually. And that just next to it is actually a Chieftain stealth concept. We do have an IKV 103. We do have an M26. We will get around to it. L3 Caravoloce, we do, but not in this building, I'm afraid. Is the STRV Centurion back there a 104? Yes, it is. I'm trying to catch up. We will show you guys the Tiger 2. Panhard AML, yes, we do. We will get to that. What's the most common tank in our collection? I would say it would have to be Centurion. Don't have any Chinese APCs, but we do have some Chinese versions of the T55. There's actually one just over there. We'll have a proper look at that in a moment. Anyway, sorry, there is a pinned comment. What is the goofiest tank that we own? So I suppose what I would define as goofiest would be down to my personal preference or what I would find as goofy. And we're going to go have a look at that now because, funny enough, it's also one of my favorite tanks in our collection. We do not have an SU-251, but we do have an SU-100 and an SU-76, which are in this building, which I might try and get on screen afterwards. Do you guys have French tanks? We do have French tanks in here. We actually have an AMX-30 main battle tank. What tanks from Australia do you have? That's awfully well timed. We just recently got this Leopard 1 from Australia. Very, very cool. I'll very quickly get you guys the view of that, and then I can go on to the goofiest tank in our collection. Yeah, so this tank arrived, it was just before Tank Fest this year. But yes, so that was all the way from Australia. Very, very cool. So the goofiest tank in our collection is probably this right here. Does anybody know what this is? Again, I do like a little bit of audience participation. It also gives me a chance to go through any questions. Do you have some Italian tanks? We do, but only in the main museum. We don't have any in this hall, this building currently. Do you have a Belgian Leopard? We do not. Yeah, you guys know what this is. Gosh, you're all such nerds, which is great. We love that. This is the most wonderful place in the world. I love your collection of German tanks. Thank you so much. Yes, we like to think we're hopefully doing an all right job of preserving everything and restoring stuff when we can. As you can imagine, tank restoration, armored vehicle restoration is quite a challenge. The tank is vertically challenged. Okay, so yes, for those of you who said Mantis or Praying Mantis, you are correct. This here is the Praying Mantis, and it's another of my favorite tanks. You're currently, okay, it might seem hard to tell. You're currently looking at the front of it. Now, what this tank is it's a experimental prototype during World War II based on a machine gun carrier chassis. So the idea behind this vehicle is, can you design a vehicle that can shoot over cover? Now, you might think, oh, how is that possible, considering how low it is? I mean, I'm literally taller than this thing. But this whole center section, for those of you who are unfamiliar, this whole center section, where's my finger? So all of that bit, you can probably see that it's separate from that box there. This entire center section raises all the way up vertically. So although this is very low right now, and I'm going to set up the camera just so that you guys can get an idea of how short this thing is currently. This probably isn't the most ideal position, but it's probably going to have to do. Jump scare, you're going to see my face in a moment. This, I'm only 5'10", and this is how low down this is. When this is fully extended, this goes up to 11.5 feet. The camera that is the tank that the camera is currently on is a Centurion. This can extend way higher than the top of a Centurion. So for those of you who don't do feet and do meters, this thing can go up to high as 3.5 meters. It's insanely strange, and luckily there is a photo on the side of this that I can actually show you. And that there is what it looks like. So again, center section right there. That middle section stays the same. So that all extends vertically using a hydraulic system. And it's just so, so strange. Now, as if that isn't weird enough, you guys might be thinking that's so strange. We're not even done yet. We're not even done. If I open up the top here, this section here, although it's a very unusual looking turret, this is referred to as the helmet when it came to this design. If we look down inside here, and I'm going to have to get my other phone out to get my torch on. I've got to get your torch on. That is the inside of the crew compartment. It might be a bit tricky to see. So hold on, I'm gonna take off a little tripod at the bottom so I can get you guys a much better view. Because I need you guys to see this because of how just goofy it is. That is the inside of the crew compartment. You're probably looking at that and thinking, what is that? I can't describe that as a seat because the crew inside this, of which there is two, they operate this vehicle by laying on their bellies, which is, I can't think of any other armored vehicle that functions like that. If we go around here, we can actually see the hatch that they would actually get in and out of. Has someone closed this? No, it's not been closed. Okay, we might be okay. Hold on. Just a moment. Again, I'm sorry if I'm missing comments. There we go. Okay, so now that is the inside of that crew position. I'm just going to get my other torch back. Those are what would you even call that? It's not. I wouldn't describe that as a seat. So on the left side there, just there, that is where the gunner would be. On the right side is where the driver would be. I'm going to show you some more cool stuff in a minute. I just want to close this. Make sure I don't slam it shut. There we go. Okay. Now you're probably thinking, how on earth can the crew see? That there is a periscope for the driver. That there is the viewport for the gunner. So it really is an absolutely wild design. Now, when they were testing this, I'm going to wrap this up because I've probably spent a good few minutes on this vehicle already. When they tested this, they found very quickly that for the crew who are laying down, and just keep in mind, when this thing is driving around, the crew are laying down in this section. So not only are they on their bellies, they're also now almost like, they're in like a weird diagonal, not quite standing up, not quite laying down position. And that whole center section sways back and forward when they're driving. So they experience what they described as seasickness, motion sickness. So very quickly, they realized that the design for this just doesn't work in practical terms. But on paper, the idea was, say there's a group of British infantry trying to push a position, and there's like there's a very tall wall, for example, and maybe there's enemies on the other side of it. Send one of these out, extend that middle section, that gun will obviously traverse left and right, and you can shoot directly over cover. But in reality, it just wouldn't have made any sense because of how disorienting it would have been for the crews. If this was remote controlled, I think it could have seen some potential success. Remote control technology was a thing during World War II, but it just didn't end up happening. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk about the Praying Mantis. I'm going to go through some more comments now because I appreciate I've been ranting for a while. Any flak tanks in our collection? We do not. Actually, well, we recently got a Chieftain marksman. Got any super heavies? We do, but not really in this building. Does the museum employ ex-army armorers? Well, yes, we do employ, and we also have quite a few people in our who help as volunteers who are ex-military, especially ex-armor. Imagine being the bloke having to stand in the tube as it elevates. Yeah, exactly. Long neck boy. Tank Museum is my favorite place to go. Oh, we love that. Thank you. 11.5 feet. Yes, 11.5 feet. I wish I was that tall. Actually, no, that would be weird, really, really weird. We don't have any Czech tanks, although we do have a Hetzer, but that's in the main museum. We do have a Churchill Crocodile, but again, that's in the main museum. Claustrophobia, final boss, yeah. Just a sheet and a pillow, you'd be perfect in that tank. There's so many comments, I am sorry. I am catching up, I'm trying to. Do you have a Churchill Crocodile? Do you have a Churchill Crocodile? We do, but you won't be seeing it today, I'm afraid. Possibly next week. We do have a Fox armored car. We showed it earlier, but we can probably swing past it again. I'm doing my best. Any captured tanks in their captured theme? Yes, let's go for a quick walk. I'm going to try and answer more questions and hopefully not forget the reason that I'm walking currently. Do you have a grant or a Lee? We've got a grant in the main museum, and there's also a grant owned by the Bill Bannister Historic Armor Collection in our workshop currently. What other tanks are in the conservatory, in the conservation center? Many tanks, including Australia's very first tank, right there. YouTube, please do not demonetize or give us any sort of strike. So yes, there is the AC-1 cruiser. Sorry, I'm trying to get it to zoom out completely. There we go. Moving swiftly on. Is the CDL in this? Yes, it is. It's right here. Right there, Matilda 2 CDL. That's very good timing to see that comment. So yes, it's very odd. There are so many comments. Right, I'm going to answer that question about do we have any vehicles that were captured, etc. So there's a BMP-1 here that was captured. I believe this was from the Gulf War. I will need to double check. I'm going to very discreetly look at the information card and not make it obvious that I'm reading off of it. Does it say where this particular one was from? Does not, but I do believe this vehicle was captured in the Gulf. Don't quote me, I could be wrong. There is another vehicle just around here. I believe it's a T-55K, a Polish-built one, which has additional armor that's been put onto it, sorry, at the front here, with that big extra armor all around the turret. It's a very odd-looking thing. This was modified by the Iraqis. So, yes, and at the back, yeah, you've got all those extra armor blocks there. So, a very rough job all over this thing. And then at the back, you've got the guys that knocked it out. Very cool. And that says 91, so that could also be the Gulf War. Let's look at the information card, if it says anything about it. So yeah, there you go, if anyone does want to read it. But yeah, so yeah, we do have a couple of vehicles in our collection that are essentially how they looked when they were captured. What is your favorite tank in the VCC? Probably the Praying Mantis, which makes things easier because I don't have to go over it again. And it means we could then look at other vehicles. IKV 103, I think we do. I think it's just down there. I've seen IKV 103 a lot in the chat, so let's try and answer that question. I believe that's just here on the left. Swedish tank destroyer. Now that is a tank destroyer. Sorry, no, this is the IKV 91. But yes, so we do have a vehicle in the IKV family. So yeah, unlike the S-tank, which again is not a tank destroyer, but would have been very effective against armor, this is a dedicated tank destroyer. So yeah, there we go. Let's have a look at. I know what to show you guys. I'm sure some of you will recognize what this vehicle is right here. We do have the Harry Hopkins tank. It's Kai the Tank Guy. Hello, I hope you're doing well. I think that might have been Where is the Land Rover half track? I believe it's been moved out of this building into the old workshop. But I used to love showing that thing off because it was just really, really cool to see a Land Rover as a half track. Oh, wow, there are a lot of comments. So yes, this is the A7V, or to be specific, it's pretending to be an A7V. This is an A7V replica. It's actually slightly smaller than the actual thing, but most people can't really tell. So we always like to try and actually point out the fact this is not an actual tank. It's just a replica that I believe was built for a film, which didn't end up happening in the end. So we took it because it's a great representation of a German A7V. Very, very tall. The actual one would have had a crew of between 18 to around 21, 22, 23. So yes, very, very big boy. And speaking of German armor, although that one isn't really actual German armor, I'm sure you guys will appreciate this. That there is the one and only surviving pre-production Tiger II, or as many people like to describe it, the Tiger II-P. Yes, and as many people in the comment sections are currently saying Tiger II-P, comment section in the chat. So, we're going to be doing a lot of talking about this vehicle over the next few years. So, sometimes, yeah, sometimes by some people referred to as the Tiger II-P, and then the production model sometimes described as the Tiger II-H. The H stands for Henschel, the P stands for Porsche, which makes things really confusing because, guys, I'm going to make this very clear, nothing on this vehicle was designed or built by Porsche, which might sound really confusing, but no matter where you've heard it, that turret is not built by Porsche. It wasn't designed by Porsche. That turret was designed and built by Krupp, the same people that, the same guys that were making turrets for most of the German tanks in World War II. The hull was a Henschel. The reason the P in Tiger II-P, for those who refer to it as that, is because originally that turret was designed to go on a Tiger II Porsche hull, which never materialized. As a result, if I remember correctly, only 50 of these pre-production turrets were built. So what ended up happening was they just went onto the Henschel hulls anyway. So again, nothing on this was designed or built by Porsche. Even though most people, so many people refer to this as the Porsche turret Tiger II. Again, nothing on that turret was designed or built by Porsche. But I'm sure, based on what I just said, you can appreciate how it can be quite confusing or how many people misunderstand it to be a Porsche turret. But yes, so this is, we're referring to this at the moment as King Tiger V2. V2 because it was the second one off the production line. This is an incredibly rare vehicle, and this is the only pre-production model surviving in the world. And as some of you may have seen, we're trying to get this thing back into running order, which is going to be a very, very big task. We're estimating it's going to cost about £1 million to get this thing back up and running. It currently hasn't got an engine, and I don't believe it has a gearbox either. So hopefully, in a few years' time, if all goes well, we will have this pre-production Tiger II, of which this is the only surviving one. There are obviously other Tiger IIs out there, but pre-production, this is the only one that survived. So yeah, very, very, very cool. Favorite tank in this building, Praying Mantis, but I'm not going to go over it again because I ranted for a very long time. Oh yes, guys, and if anyone is interested in chipping in a bit of coin towards the restoration of this vehicle, our lovely moderator has just put a link in the chat. If anyone is interested in helping out and being part of this vehicle's restoration. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Okay, M22 Locust. Let me try find it. We do have one. Is it still in here? I think it is. Yeah, there we go. Funnily enough, it was hiding behind the Tiger II the whole time. Let me try and squeeze through here. Ow. Ow. A bit of an awkward spot, but there we go. It's the small boy. Luxury 2004, thank you so much for that donation. Very much appreciated. But yeah, so there we go. M22 Locust. Another favorite, the small boy. American-built tank for the British War Office. The British during World War II wanted a small tank that could be air portable. This was the result. The British didn't quite have the manpower to sort of design and build their own one at the time, so the Americans did it. The British really didn't like it, but you can also see that M22 Locusts have these mounting points because these were meant to be put on the belly of a aircraft, not glider. And the idea was that you would take the turret off separately, if I remember correctly, and then you'd basically mount it after it would be dropped off. But yeah, it was just not the most practical because to be able to drop these off, you would need enough. You basically need an airfield, and if you didn't have access to an airfield, then it's kind of redundant. But what they did find was that the Hamilcar glider was perfect for air portable, transporting tanks. Although the British Tetrarch, the light British tank, was also perfect for that as well. Although that wasn't specifically designed to be air portable, it just happened to fit the criteria. Oh, I'm going to squeeze through here. Ow, ow, ow. I'm going to go through a couple more comments. Someone asked for the Fox earlier, and there it is. What does the Fox say? Suddenly it's 2017 again. So yes, that there is essentially a bit. Also, one thing that if you may have noticed, I tend to say essentially a lot. I do apologize, but it probably won't be stopping. So just a heads up. You're looking at as what could be described as a very big ferret body with the turret from a Sabre, very similar to the Scimitar. So 30mm Raden gun. So yeah, very cool. There's some really cool stuff in here, guys. Conway, yes, we do have the Chieftain and the Berlin Brigade camouflage. We do not have any Polish tanks, unfortunately. It's a shame we don't have a 7P, but alas, that's very similar to a Vickers E, which we do have. So Conway, we do have Conway. Conway is just over here. Trying to figure out how to get the best view of this thing, considering how large it is. Okay, there we go. So there we go. Conway, the brother of FV4005. So with this, you've got the 120mm gun, the same gun that eventually goes into Conqueror, but underneath you are basically looking at a Centurion chassis. So yeah, the big cannon, yes. Whew. Sorry, I'm just taking a moment. I've been talking a lot. Excelsior, yes, we do have the Excelsior. You probably briefly caught that before. Let's go back and find it. Well, it's actually just over there, but let's try and get a better view of it. For those of you who don't know, I like to describe the Excelsior as a bit like a Cavalier or a Cromwell, but with lots of thick armor on it. But was designed as an assault tank. There we go, that's a pretty decent shot of it there. So there it is, the Excelsior. Could also maybe describe it as a mini Churchill. Very, pretty much the same sort of hatch at the front as well. But yeah. Okay, I'm going to show you guys a vehicle, and I'm going to see if you guys can guess, or if any of you know what it is. I'm just trying to figure out the easiest way to get to it. Again, guys, if you're enjoying what you're watching, please do consider giving us a like by double tapping that screen. If you're not familiar with this account, we are the Tank Museum. I'm Fam, one of the presenters here, also known as Fam the Tank Man. And yeah, we're trying to see if we're going to do more regular live streams. So today we're doing YouTube. Next week we're going to be on TikTok. So, does anybody know what we are looking at here? And whilst you guys figure that out, I'm going to very quickly set up this camera and have a quick swig of Wasser because I'm doing a lot of talking and I need to stay hydrated. Also, if you can hear me drinking, I do apologize. But let this be an important reminder for all of you guys, stay hydrated. If you've got a zesty beverage next to you on your desk or wherever you're watching this from, be sure to have a quick swig of your drink and stay hydrated. Okay, I think I'm hydrated enough now. Okay. Yeah, this water tastes weird. Why does the water taste spicy? Okay, let's go through some comments. Let's see what you guys have to say about this. Oh, okay, that wasn't even a challenge. You guys know exactly what this is. Yeah, that wasn't even... I thought I was being, like, sneaky by... Oh, guys, look, it's a Sherman. But what kind? No, you guys knew straight away it's a Sherman 105. I clearly need to try harder. So, yes, this is a Sherman 105. It's got the beefier later suspension that the latest Sherman's got, but the main difference is that gun right there. That is not a 75mm, that is a 105mm gun. I'm just going to turn the torch on this thing if you can see inside it. Oh, I think we can. We can, guys. I'm figuring out technology. That there, you're looking down the barrel of a Sherman 105. The 105 was primarily used for in a support role, so you would never want to be taking on armor with this thing. Big, high explosive rounds. The 75mm high explosive round was very effective as well. And again, the Sherman's main purpose was to support infantry on the battlefield. So with this one, it's just a bigger gun, bigger high explosive rounds. The main gun can be elevated to a very, very high degree. And whilst I can't illustrate that, you can probably see that there is space at the top of the gun for the mantlet to essentially go all the way to the back there. I can't quite remember the degree that this thing could be elevated to, but essentially it can aim right up like that, because this could also be used in an indirect fire support role. So literally, they'll receive a set of coordinates and they'd fire, and if all goes well, those high explosive rounds will hit their target. Maybe not with pinpoint accuracy, but with some degree of accuracy. So yeah, it looks kind of sad. Oh, the tracks look kind of sad. Yeah, well, the tracks end about there, and then it's just road wheels. For those of you wondering, it's got a radiation caution risk sticker on it, because on the inside, if I remember correctly, I think it's got like some water damage near the driver section, and the driver section has dials which would have had radium paint. Pretty much any Sherman that was produced had radium paint, and I believe the water got onto it. So yeah, unsealed radium paint risk. So again, we're completely safe standing here, touching it and do whatever. It's literally just on the inside, which is why this vehicle is sealed. So yeah. LC here, I really enjoy your tank chats. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Harold. Thank you. We very, very much appreciate that. Hello former California. Water is spicy. You can tell where I've caught up because that was clearly the part where I was drinking my water. Apparently I missed a donation. If I did, I do apologize. I'm hoping that our mod caught it. What's the most modern armored vehicle that we have? In this building, or at least to what we have access to currently, I think it might have to be this right here. No, not the Chieftain. If the most modern vehicle in this building is a Chieftain, that says a lot. M41, we will have a Wonder past it, but it would probably be This right here, does anybody know what vehicle this is without looking at the information card at the front? We do have a comet. Comet's just behind me. We'll have a look at that shortly. You're correct in saying it is an infantry fighting vehicle. Yeah, one of you's got it. Not going to say who. This is definitely not Ajax. I don't think we'd be allowed Ajax right now. Warrior got a makeover, yeah. Yeah, so what you're looking at, the information card says Warrior CSP. What we usually refer to this as is Warrior 2. So for those of you who don't know, Warrior is a British infantry fighting vehicle. It's kind of comparable to the American Bradley, or at least that's what I'm going to use as a comparison for those of you who aren't familiar. Warrior 2 was essentially what Warrior would have turned into, but during its development, they basically canned it and went, no, we're going to go with something else. So I don't know how many of these exist. It's a relatively new vehicle. I think we received this in 2023. Maybe don't quote me on that. But this is a very, very new vehicle. We don't have, oh, hold on. Cancelled by the British government in 2021. So we would have received this 2021 or 2022. So instead of this thing just being completely scrapped, it was brought down here to the Tank Museum, where it now lives. Compared to the Warrior 1, which uses a 30mm Raden, if I remember correctly, it's using a much bigger 40mm. But yeah, it's also got a much more boxier turret. If we go to the back, there's some cool stuff. Oh, I can't quite get there. I definitely didn't just break one of the thingies. Got a camera at the back, but obviously with it being an infantry fighting vehicle, that's where your crew's coming out of. Also, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the camera to zoom out again, and it's not wanting to cooperate. Please do forgive me. There we go. But yeah, so there's still quite a few things on this vehicle that we can't talk about or can't show, because again, it's a very, very recent vehicle. So moving swiftly on. Crazy Horse, very, very brief look at Crazy Horse again, because I did cover that a bit earlier on. But we've got a Chieftain Mark II there in Berlin Brigade camo. Chieftain Crazy Horse. There we go. So again, remote control Chieftain. We do have a video about it on our channel. So please do, if you are interested in finding out more about this vehicle, do check out our Crazy Horse video. Really, really, really cool video. Didn't quite get the views we wanted, but it is a very, very cool video. A Chieftain MBT-80 there. Composite test rig. Composite test rig. We've got a Chieftain P6 here, which again is another Chieftain prototype. We've got here, which is a very kind of odd looking vehicle, the one with the giant Christmas bauble on the top. That is what we nickname the Jag Chieftain. So as you can probably tell from the name, the idea was, what if we take a Chieftain chassis and mount the gun at the front like a Jag Tiger or a Jag Panther? Now, they'd never actually fitted a proper gun to it, but what they did do is put a mock-up gun. So if I go to the back of it, you'll actually be able to see it. Oh, I can't get my leg over that. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. There we go. That is the mock gun that was stuck to the front. So yes, as you can probably tell, fixed gun just has a lot of disadvantages compared to more conventional turreted tanks. I'm going to show you guys some French stuff, because someone was asking about French vehicles, EBR, armored cars, and honestly, I think the French make some pretty cool stuff. There we go. Very, very cool. So this is one of our Panhard EBR armored cars. with an F11 turret. This would have been on the the same turret that would have been on the earlier AMX-13s, which also happens to have a radiation warning. So the cool thing with the EBR armored cars, they've got 8 wheels. So you've got your big rubber road wheels there. The cool thing about the Panhard EBRs, there's also another one just over there, by the way, but with a much bigger, much longer gun. The idea behind the EBR armored car was, can we make a wheeled vehicle that has similar properties to a tracked one? So you've got 4 rubber road wheels, but you also have these 4 metal road wheels, which can be lifted. So say if you're driving on a paved road, you'd raise the metal wheels and you'd just be running on those right there. Top speed of this thing, 105 kilometers per hour, which is pretty incredible. But if you then come across some terrain that's really, really boggy, hello to those who have just joined us, really boggy terrain, really muddy, you'd then lower these big 4 steel wheels to give this vehicle a lot more traction. I think it's a really cool design. You don't really see that with many other armored fighting vehicles in terms of design. But yes, very, very cool. We have an M40, there we go, M41 Walker Bulldog just over there. That particular one was donated to us by the New Zealand government. So if you actually look at the number plate, which you can't see from here, you know what, let's just walk around. I could tell you about it, or I could show you, and I'd rather just show you. The hard part is if I don't get distracted on the way. Speaking of which, Panhard AML, someone was asking for one of these earlier. Swing fire, basically an FE432 Bulldog, but with a swing fire missile system at the top. Who needs a tank to knock out a tank when you can have an armored personnel carrier with a rocket on the back? Some very cool stuff here. Hello from Ukraine. So I will go through your comment in a moment, just want to show this off. So yeah, this one was donated to us by the New Zealand government, and you can actually see at the front NZ30544, and you've got a Kiwi. Very, very cool. Hello from Ukraine. Does this museum have Soviet stuff? We have plenty of Soviet stuff. Let's have a bit more of a look around. Actually, guys, I'm going to show you a Soviet vehicle, but I really hope we don't get demonetized or like striked or anything, because the vehicle we're about to show you is it's kind of thick, if you know what I mean. Damn! I'm sure you guys probably recognize what this is. Let's actually get to the front, so it's a little bit easier to look at. Damn! Does the museum have any IS tanks? We do not. The closest thing we have to an IS tank is a KV-1, which is not an IS, which, yeah, so we do not, I'm afraid. So yeah, this here is the BMP-1 infantry fighting vehicle. Definitely a different take on infantry fighting vehicle designs. I'm not going to compare it with Warrior 2 because that's probably very unfair, considering Warrior 2 is one of the most modern vehicles in this building. But yeah, I'm sure many of you know that in recent meme culture, if that's the thing, the BMP is becoming a lot more popular because of that right there. The back doors do be kind of thick. On a serious note, so that I don't get demonetized, so that we don't get demonetized and no one has a problem with it, what these are, obviously these are back doors, but these also function as secondary fuel tanks, which is why they are so thick. I wish I could show you the inside of this BMP, because the main fuel tank for this vehicle is right in the center. And when I say in the center, literally that center section, where's my finger? Right there, that's where the main fuel tank is. And then either side, here and here, is where your infantry would go, which in my mind is probably, it's kind of horrific design choice, but again, this is Soviet stuff. It's incredibly crude, which is one of the reasons I actually really like the Soviet stuff. I think it's very interesting from a design point of view. You've actually got these ports here where you could, the soldiers would be able to put their assault rifles through. They don't really move, but you'd also have your periscopes there, and there. And again, you've got the same on the other side, just over there. Over here, you've got a Saga anti-tank, I think it's 83 or 84, Saga anti-tank guided missile. So whilst this has got a main gun, it's also got an anti-tank weapon system on it as well. Because again, this was you know, we're talking about the Cold War. This is the period where it's, do you really need a big 50-ton tank to take out another tank? Or could you get something relatively small, put an anti-tank guided missile on it, and use that instead? The Snail Mobile, thank you very much for the donation. Let's go through, is there an STRV 103? There is, but I did spend quite a bit of time on it. We may very briefly go past it. Okay, we're gonna go see it again, but only because someone just happened to ask if we have Contentious, and Contentious is right next to the S-tank. So there you go, 2 birds, 1 stone. So that there is the back end of the S-tank, the STRV 103. That's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze. I'll do that in a minute. And next to it is Contentious. For those of you who don't know, and there's a good chance that maybe you guys might not know about this, because this is one of those very odd British concept vehicles that not many people actually know about. But the easiest way to describe that is it's a British attempt at an S-tank. So in the same way it has hydro-pneumatic suspension, I'm going to try and squeeze through here and not rip my trousers, which usually happens. Really dope. As you can see there, that suspension at the front is tilted all the way up. The gun, again, 105mm gun, completely exposed, because again, this was more of a test concept, but it's fixed to the main hull of the vehicle. You'll be able to see that better here. So that gun's not moving anywhere, not without the controls from the driver. But yeah, very, very cool. So one of those British oddities that doesn't really get much coverage at all. And then right next to that, as I said, you've got an actual S-tank, which was tested and proven and put into production. Mum, can we have an S-tank? We've got S-tanks at home. S-tanks at home. Talk about Comet, please. Okay, since you said please, we'll go find a Comet. Luckily, there's 2 in this building, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. Speak of the devil. There we have a Comet. But I will bring you to the front so you guys get a bit of a better view. I'm not going to go that way. I might end up tearing my trousers. Okay. So here we are. Comet. What could be described as a bigger, beefier version of the Cromwell. Does anybody know what gun is used on the Comet? So again, this is a British late World War II tank. Saw very limited service in World War II. I don't know, I mean, guys, from what I've seen so far is the YouTube community, or you guys in the comments, are pretty good when it comes to like me trying to like be really sneaky and see if I can catch you guys out. Oh, no, maybe I have. I don't think the Comet has a KWK-88. Snail Mobile, thank you again so much for the donation. Oh, okay. It looks like most of you are on the right sort of area, but not quite. So, as much as this looks like a 17-pounder, what you're looking at is not a 17-pounder. It is, however, the 77mm QF. Now, it looks a lot like the 17-pounder, but the difference with this gun and a 17-pounder is the breech is considerably smaller. They've essentially redesigned the gun to make it much more practical in terms of tank design. So a much smaller breech, but it also does mean it's a much smaller charge. The round itself is considerably smaller than a 17 pounder. I wouldn't say it's about half the size, but it's close to nearly half, just above half the size. I'm going to stop because I think I'm probably making it more confusing. But it's a smaller version of a 17 pounder round, would be a very crude way of describing it. So it's not a 17 pounder, it's a 77 mil. So well done to you who got that right. But yes. I mean, the muzzle brake it looks almost identical to a 17 pounder. So you could be like, we'll forgive you guys for thinking it's a 17 pounder. I think when I first started working here, I used to think that was a short barreled 17 pounder, which isn't really the case. There's a bit more to it than that. Another look at our A7V replica. Do we have any M60s? We do, although they're not currently in this building. Well, in this hall. They're actually in the workshop, which I can't really show right now because the workshop is a working environment and I don't really like just springing a live stream into the workshop without letting the guys know. I don't think that's fair. I say that, we'll go in there and they're all having a party or something. No, I joke. We don't have a T-34 in this building, I'm afraid. We just looked at the cheese wedge, by which I mean the S-tank. You know what, guys? How about we just go through this? Let's just go here and see if we can find anything. Guys, I just remembered something really cool that I can show you guys. No, it's not the wreck of what looks like a Panther turret. Does anybody know what this is? It might look a bit weird because we are kind of looking at the back of it. Was that a King Tiger there? We did have a King Tiger. Sorry, we do have a King Tiger. We've got two, in fact. The one that you would have seen was the pre-production. Yeah, you guys know exactly what this is. This is very much the Sturmmorser. This is the barrel from a Sturm Tiger. Now, I really wish I could demonstrate how massive this thing is, and I might actually be able to. Guys, give me a moment. Give me just a moment. And I might be able to give you guys a better look of how massive this thing is. Also, random anti-tank guided missiles right above me. So, there we go. That is a much better setup. Colossal in size. So, just to give you guys some context of how big this thing is, it's pretty chonk. It's pretty big. I could quite easily fit inside. I probably couldn't easily fit inside this anymore, especially with Christmas coming around the corner. But it's absolutely massive. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty insane to think that they would have had a rocket basically fired out of this when mounted inside the Sturm Tiger. But yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good? It's pretty big. Pretty thick. You've got a Giga Chad gun here, and then you just have here like British, small, tiny pew-pew 2-pounder gun. Crazy to think that this gun at one point was one of the most effective anti-tank guns of World War II. And by that, I mean the early part. But yeah. Do we have Conway? We do. However, I have shown it a few times and not that long ago, so I probably won't be going back to it. I love your Christmas jumper. Thank you so much. Thank you. We've got some filming coming up, and we're trying to go for a cozy Christmassy vibe. So I figured I'd get myself a Christmas jumper, and I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I absolutely love Star Wars. So what better way than getting a Christmassy Star Wars jumper? Guys, it's time. Oh, hold on. We've got a pinned comment. Could we look at the Chieftain Sid? Yes, we can do that. Let's go look at that really, really quick. And spot a load of tanks on the way. I say that, this isn't a tank. That's the Bulldog FE432, the upgraded, more recent version. That there is Covenanter, regarded as one of the worst British tanks ever put into production, if not the worst British tank put into production. I've already forgot what I'm looking for. Chieftain Sid. Dingo armored car. Already, and for a second time, I've forgotten where we're going. Chieftain Sid, there we go. I do apologize. This is the problem with having, as someone who has ADHD and works in a place with tanks, I easily get distracted by literally any other vehicle. Walker Bulldog again. Chieftain Sid, where is the Chieftain Sid? Oh, it's over there. There it is. Sorry, you can probably appreciate it's kind of easy to get lost in here. There's what, like 12 columns of tanks and 120 vehicles in here? Engine, gearbox, presumably engine. This is the Kharkov V12, sorry. Engine that was inside the T-34. Chieftain Sid, there we go. It took 5 attempts at remembering where we were going, but here we go. This is the Chieftain Sid. Essentially, a test bed for a stealth vehicle, a stealth version of a Chieftain, which is why it looks kind of, what, stealthy. You've still got your usual stuff that would be in there, but locked behind those hatches instead. It's also got modified road wheels, which are completely smooth. The idea was for this thing to absorb as much of a radar ping and also prevent giving off a large radar signature. It's also got these bristly bits by the front and the rear of the tracks. I always jokingly say it's what we use to tidy up and sweep the arena after Tank Fest. But yeah, you can see underneath though, it's a bog standard Churchill. That's not the right tank. Chieftain. So yeah, very, very cool. Can I get inside the M22? I cannot, because funnily enough, there's also radium in there, and I think it might even have asbestos. Don't quote me on that, but we can't get in it, I'm afraid. I wanted to show you guys a really, really cool engine. QF 75mm gun from a Churchill. A Saracen just next to me here. I'm going to show you guys what is an engine which has kind of become a bit of a meme in, a bit of a meme in recent years. We're back at the Australian AC-1, the PP tank. Can I get into or onto the Tiger 2P? I'm not going to, it's very high up, and I don't really want to risk it. Oh, hold on, rewind time. M26 Pershing. Someone was asking earlier on if we had one, and we very much do. So there you go. A much bigger 90mm, heavily armored American tank. Someone also asked for the Valiant. Valiant is right there. I did an edit of the Valiant the other day about how it was possibly the worst British tank ever built. Do check it out on our shorts if you're interested. Carousel from presumably a T-72. I could be wrong on that, but it is a carousel. So auto-loading system. But yeah, very cool. Very, very big engine packs. But that's not what I want to show you. What I want to show you guys is this right here. And I'm going to move back so that you guys can't read the information card. Does anybody know what this is? You probably can see the information card, to be honest. I may show the M22 one more time. I have shown it a couple of times this stream. We have a Ram. We do have a Ram, but that's in the main museum. Do any of the German tanks have asbestos or radioactive material? I don't believe they do have any radiation hazards inside them. I've not seen any off the top of my head. That doesn't mean there isn't though. Everyone's just saying, instead of saying what this engine is, they're just saying what tank it went into. which is fair enough. The 5-car engine, yeah. Yeah, what you're looking at, guys, is the Chrysler multi-bank. For those of you who know the meme about the Churchill Firefly, the 17-pounder won't fit, put the gun sideways. The radio won't fit, put a box in the back of the turret and put it in there. The engine's no good. Get 5 car engines and weld them together, which is essentially what you're looking at. Again, I'm still saying essentially. I will not be stopping. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Just 5 car engines bolted around a drive shaft. Apparently, when these run, they sound very, very unusual, but apparently they were also quite reliable, despite how wacky it looks in terms of design. But yeah, that is the Chrysler multi-bank, or as everyone just kind of keeps referring to it as, the 5-car engine. The engine's so good. Helicopter. Boop. I believe this is a Sanders Row Skeeter. I'm not a helicopter guy. There might be something here that helps identify that. There we go. You can see the inside of it. It's pretty cool to have an aircraft in our collection, to be honest. But yes, I do believe it is a Sanders Row Skeeter. Do we have a Type 69? We do. Let's go have a look for it. Lovely M5 Stuart again. Swedish Centurion, the Stridsvagn 104. Main difference is that it has a diesel engine instead of the Rolls-Royce Meteor, which is why the engine decks are a little bit taller. M103, absolutely colossal Cold War American tank. Actually, I'm sorry, guys, just to give you an idea how massive that thing is, let me just set the camera up real quick. This thing is huge. Absolutely massive. Can I even get the gun? I might be able to get the gun in the same shot. Absolutely massive. I believe there's a phone box in here. But yeah, so not an M60, M103, absolutely massive. We're still going. Yeah, it's just absolutely massive. Anyway, I don't want to get lost in a field of tanks. But yeah, we did a video on the M103 earlier this year. So if you want to find out more information about this absolute beast of a vehicle, do consider checking it out. Right, Type 69, before I forget. It's either a Type 59 or a Type 69 we have. Oh, I know we definitely have a Type 69 somewhere. I just can't remember if it's in this column here. I think it is. I think it's that one there with that bar armor on it. Hey, there we go, Type 69. So the Norinco Type 69 was essentially a Chinese version of the T-55, and this is a later one. They also had the Type 59 as well, which was the predecessor for this. With this one, you've actually got infrared sights and infrared spotlight just there. But yeah, we have a Type 59 in the main museum, which is in a section with a big photo on the background of Tiananmen Square. But yeah. Do you have any Greek tanks, at least those that served in Greece? Okay, so I can't really say a whole lot, but I can say we do have models of tanks that served in Greece. So for example, I believe the A9 and the A10 Cruiser were in Greece, but not in this building. That's in the main museum. If you ever do come to the tank museum, there's a really cool section about a tank crewman who essentially escaped from Greece. Their tank had broken down. I think it was a Cruiser A9, and they were waiting for spare parts. Have a look at the back, inside the back of a M113 while I'm yapping. They were waiting tank parts to arrive to repair their tank. And when the tank parts actually arrived, they were somewhat horrified to realize that the tank parts were for the newer A10s, or a newer version of the tank, and were not compatible. So they had to abandon their tanks and flee from Greece. And they basically ended up commandeering a boat and fled all the way to Egypt. But yeah, it's a very cool interview with the guy that escaped from Greece in our World War II hall. But yes, I was not meant to do that. Oh, sorry, I might accidentally put a filter on. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to turn the flash off. Oh, I did. Okay. Yes, right, so RKV again. Guys, I think we're probably going to wrap the stream up. So if you have any other questions, please do ask them now, and I'll do my best to try and answer them. Oh, shucks. All right. What oscillating tanks are in here? We did look at them briefly before, but I'll show you guys again. So we do have the French Panhard EBR armored cars. I might be able to fit through that if I hold my stomach in. Oh, the torch is still on. I thought I turned it off. Ah, there we go. Crazy Kit Builder, thank you so much for your donation. Very much appreciated. And very much appreciate you guys supporting us. So yeah, oscillating turrets. The idea with the oscillating turrets is that they have auto-loading systems built into them. So they can fire quickly, reload quickly, and carry on. But for that to work, the entire turret and gun mechanism needs to shift with it. In fact, if we go to the back, there you are. That's the hole where the shell casing flies out. So we've also got the same, is it this turret or the other? I think we've got an AMX-13 in our tanks in popular culture section. I just can't remember if it's an FL-10 or an FL-11 turret. Can visitors visit this area? So we do tank experience days. If you're interested, do check out the What's On page on our website. I'm sure our lovely moderator can drop a link. We do tank experience days on and off throughout the year, but we also have Tiger Day premium experiences, which is when basically you get a bunch of tours. You get to go inside our workshop, which very few people get to see. You get to get up close and personal with our big cats. Well, not just the big cats. Tiger 1, Panther, Panzer II, Panzer III. Get to look inside them and get really close with them. And yeah, and you also get some tours from the workshop team. We have a 88mm anti-tank gun in there, which they restored a few years back. They'll talk to you about that. But yeah, and you also should be able to walk around the floor section of the VCC. Do check the details on each one. But yes, how many tanks do you have? In our whole collection, we've got around 300 tanks. Sorry, vehicles and a helicopter. In this building, we've got about 120. What country is the tank museum in? We are in the United Kingdom. We're on the south coast in a lovely county called Dorset. We're quite literally smack bang in the middle of Dorset, in the middle of nowhere. The reason for that is because this is essentially the birthplace of the tank. And when they were developing tanks during World War I, or land ships as they called them at that point, they needed somewhere that was essentially devoid of any sort of life so that they could develop it without onlookers and so on and so forth. So, which is why it ended up being in Bovington, in the middle of Dorset. So yes. Any South African vehicles? We have a Buffel, but it's in the workshop, so I can't show that, unfortunately. The Buffel is a very interesting vehicle. It's a shame I can't show that. I always like to describe it as a toaster on wheels, but a very interesting take on a armored personnel carrier, suspended high up in the air. It should have been Lincolnshire. Well, you know what? I don't have a time machine, and it is what it is. Smallest vehicle, can you show? Smallest vehicle in here? I know what our smallest vehicle is. I have to go back this way. Do you enjoy making model tanks? So tank modeling isn't something that I do. I don't really have, to be fair, I don't really have the space to really do it all the time at this point. But we do have the model show. We normally have twice a year where you get a load of model makers that come down and show off all their stuff. Doesn't have to just be military history or tanks. We get loads of sci-fi models, really, really cool. Guys, I think the smallest vehicle in here, it's not the Tiger II. The smallest vehicle in here is probably that. I mean, it counts as a vehicle. Yes, this is the infamous tank made by Outside Play. And for some reason, it's got US markings and a Great Britain number plate. Don't ask me. The Fox. Okay, I'll show you guys the Fox because it's just round here. Again, A7V replica just there. M22 Locust is hiding just behind here. And then we've got the Fox armored car just there. What helicopter do you have? It's a Sanders Row Skeeter. And yeah, so there we are. Let me just try and figure out a vehicle I can set up a camera on just so I can do a proper goodbye. But guys, if you have enjoyed this, I really hope you have. I appreciate a lot of it is just me rambling about stuff and sometimes getting distracted. But I hope you guys did enjoy it somewhat. We are the Tank Museum. I'm Fam, also known as Fam the Tank Man. We're going to do another live next week at the same time on Wednesday, but it will be on TikTok. If you're not that familiar with this account, but you've enjoyed what you've seen, please do consider giving us a follow. If all goes well, we can probably do more of these and just, yeah, get you guys looking at these incredible vehicles. At the end of the day, we've got all of these really cool armored vehicles in our collection, and what's the point if we can't show it off to people and show you guys the rich amount of history we have here at the Tank Museum. And again, if you really, really love military history, do consider checking out our website, maybe come down. I'm a little bit biased because I work here, but it's a really good day out. If you're the kind of person who really loves to absorb everything, read everything, look at and experience as much as possible, maybe even 2 days here. So I'm Fam. Thank you guys so much from wherever you're watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you want to see more tank stuff, consider checking out our long form videos. We've got literally hundreds of videos where you can just binge or have on, like, if you've got a second screen, just binge, watch some stuff, learn about tanks. Got a load of short form content, most of which I make, a couple of memes thrown in there. So yeah, if you guys want to see more tank stuff, do consider checking out the content on our account. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. I'm clearly showing my age when I'm trying to figure out how to stop the stream. Cheers, guys.